I wanted to document how I've built a new feature of my templates so that I can sort of lay things out on the web page and sort of quickly and redesign as I go. So right now, it seems like I just have one div in here called test4, but if I actually inspect this, you'll see that I think what I have is, yeah, I've got one, two, three, four divs all on top of each other. Why? Because the Flex container is style grid. And I didn't give it an area or a rows or anything, so it's like super confused where to put everything. In fact, if we go here to layout, you can see that it's like, man, I don't know where to put any of these things, so it dumps it all on the bottom right. So what I wrote was some code to let me let's see, yeah, here we go. A function called local redesign. And what you do is you give it the names of the divs, which I'll show you how I sort of already have those set in a 2D array. So right now, this is just, it has one row. So if I run it, it puts it all in one row, just like that. And what it does is if test2 gets repeated, then test2 is going to show up twice here. So if I wanted to do, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a 2 by 2 grid, I would do local redesign. Let's see, I want test1 div, test2 div, and then close that row, and then open a new one, test3 div, test4 div, close that row, close the whole thing. Test4 div is not defined. What? Hang on. Maybe I did something dumb. Oh, I apparently I used a lowercase. So for now, I'll just change this to be a lowercase. Boom. Now I've got 2 by 2. If I wanted to put all of this big long text over on the right in 2 columns and have, say, 1 and 2 be over here, or yeah, let's do 1 and 2. That would be local redesign. Let's see, 1 on the upper left. I want 3, which is the one with all of the text in the upper right. So I'll do test3 div in the upper right. And then in the bottom left, I want test2. And then I want test3 again in the bottom right. Let's see. So test1 up here, test2 down here, and then test3 spanning like that. So I think that should do the trick. Yeah. So puts one there and there. Um, I've also made it so that if you're lazy and you don't actually finish all of the columns, it figures it out. So um, let's do something where I say test1 div, test2 div, like so, in the top row. So I definitely have 2 columns, and in the bottom, I'm just lazy and I do test3 div just once. So normally, if you're doing grid area, grid template areas, you would have to remember to duplicate this one. But what I'm doing is I'm checking the length of all of the arrays in this array. And I say, oh, wait, the longest length is 2, and here's one that only has 1. And I just say, well, if you find one that's missing something, just duplicate the last element until you've matched the length. So what this should do is test1 in the upper left, test2 in the upper right, and test3 should span all across the bottom here. So let's see if that works. Yep, that works just fine. So let me show you how I did that. So here's where I just lay out all the divs. I have to give the container a main div name. And so I just have all of the divs. And of course, the order doesn't matter. That's why I like using grid template areas. It's because the order doesn't matter. You can just put it in here however you like. And the way I did the code was, first of all, this makes sure that any divs that have an ID are turned into variables. So that's what this set of code does. So if your div has an ID, it's going to be a global variable you can just use. Now, a lot of browsers apparently just do that. Apparently anything with an ID is made available like that, but I wanted to make sure that it worked in all browsers. So boom, now all the divs that have an ID are variable names. And then this local redesign, the first thing that I do is I figure out all of the children of the main area, because I might have subdivs, so I just want the children. And actually, what I found it's easiest is just to blank them all because I don't know what's going to get used. So I just blank them all using display none. Then here's where I fix the lengths. I say, hey, what is the maximum uh, column length? And then go through each one. And if the length of each row is equal to the maximum column length, fine, don't do anything. If it's too short, then while it's too short, just keep appending the last one. And so that fixes all of the lengths. Then to make the area string, so the area string looks like, uh, let's see, here we go. Area string tends to look like this. So it's a bunch of quotation marks. It's all inside a big gigantic string, right? And then it has quotation marks with spaced delimited names of grid areas. So I needed it to look like that. And the way that I did that was I just went through the array and I mapped it. And for each one, I put in a quotation mark way out front. And then for each one, of course, I say, oh, this one needs to be displayed. So block it and then return its ID, which is it's the string that I needed. And then just join those with spaces. And then at the end, put a quotation mark at the end of it and join all of those with a line return just to make it read nice. You don't have to do that. And then I set the columns to be however long the first row is. All the rows are the same length now, so however long the first row is, and I make them all be equal fractions. And so that's just arbitrary decision I've made is that these are always going to take up the same amount of space. And then the number of rows is, of course, however many rows you gave it. And I do the same thing there. And then, of course, I need to set the grid template area string. And so that's this area string variable that I had built. And so that's what enables me to then run this function called local redesign. So now in my code, I mean, this is the user using the developer tools, whatever. In my code, I can say, oh, you know what? I really just want to show the picture. You would just do a local redesign and only put the picture in. So if you just wanted one thing shown, so if I do the long one with text, local redesign, to do just the text, I would do test rediv by itself in a 2D array. Boom. And then it's going to fill the whole screen with that, and it's going to hide everybody else. And then to bring them all back again, I could go to any one of these. What's one that has them all? One, two, three, four. Boom. And that just brings them all back again. So I find that this is going to be useful in my code when I want to make a rapid change to the display. I don't have to create all of the divs. They're created and they're named variables. I can just decide whether to show them or not.